Good evening and welcome to this week's edition of Tiger Sports Nation right here on D3 TV. I'm Robert Sherman, and alongside me, Michael Jennings, will be here to start off the show. Let's begin. It was a big week for athletics here on DePauw's campus, most notably the Monon Bell game happening this past Saturday. It was the 122nd playing on the Monon Bell game, and for the 7th consecutive year, the Bell game went in favor of the Wabash Little Giants.
Yeah, that's right, Sherman. It was a 45-17 rout, really, by the Wabash Little Giants at the expense of the DePauw Tigers. DePauw dropped to 8-2 on the season. Not a bad season by any means for the Tigers, as they had a couple historic wins, one against Wittenberg, most notably. And Wabash ended the season 10-0. Great season for them. What did you think of this game, Robert? You were on the call. You saw the whole thing.
Well, it was interesting because I actually caught wind of this right before the game began, that the spread for that contest was going to be 22 points. And going into that game, I thought that was absurd, that there was no way that that game was going to be that far in favor of the Wabash Little Giants, with the way that the DePauw Tigers had put together, statistically, one of the best years in program history. On the offensive side of the ball, the best season in program history. So I figured going into that game that it was going to be a fairly close affair. But you look at the way that Wabash plays football, they're not a good team in Division III football. They are an elite team. They are a team that's playing for a national championship. They're ranked 5th in the entire country right now. And in Division III football, it's very different than Division I. There's a much larger disparity between the teams on the top and the teams one level below them. Wabash is one of those teams that's going to turn some heads in the postseason because, frankly, Michael, they're that good. DePauw's a good football team, but Wabash at this point in their tenure, just a little bit better.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And you hinted at it was an historic year for the DePauw offense, and Matt Hunt actually did not have a terrible game. He made a couple key mistakes, which he normally doesn't do, but against a defense like that, against a Wabash defense, an elite Wabash defense, like you said, Robert, he went 20 of 39 for 244 yards and 2 touchdowns, but also 2 interceptions. One of them very costly, came in the end zone after the Tigers had put together a great drive. They were in the red zone. They looked like they were going to put some points on the board, and then all of a sudden, you know, Jake Hagan falls down in the end zone. Nice, easy pick for Wabash, and they go down and score some points of their own. At that point, it was 14-7 in that game. So if DePauw had tied it up there, we could have seen a very different ball game from what we saw from there on out. Also, first half turnovers really did them in. There was another key fumble by Jason Kirchhoff as the Tigers were putting together, again, a decent drive. It was around midfield, but they had started deep in their end, and DePauw was really moving the ball, getting first downs. That really stopped some momentum there for the Tigers. How do you think, for me, that moment, that interception in the end zone was really the turning point for the Tigers. I want to know, you were, like I said, you were on the call. What was that like, seeing it from the press box?
No doubt that that was a big turning point in the ball game. I was talking to Nick Morozes before the game, the legendary football coach here at DePauw, and he said, never look at the total yards from a game and expect that to decide the ball game. You go all the way back to 1983 and every Monon Bell since. That's 32 Monon Bell games. 24 of those Monon Bell games have had a turnover differential. And when there's a turnover differential, the team that turns the ball over less has won 22 out of 24 times. Turnovers ultimately tend to decide the Monon Bell game, not total yards accrued. So when the DePauw team turns the ball over 3 times at one contest, especially when they're only trailing by 1 score and at the end of the day have an opportunity to go into the end zone to tie the ball game up, that's ultimately what did the Tigers in. The inability to keep up with the Wabash Little Giants by not having an equal number of possessions, being limited by their turnovers, that was the difference in the ball game. That was why the DePauw Tigers fell behind, and that's ultimately why the Wabash Little Giants won their 7th straight Monon Bell.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, Robert. And when you're turning the ball over to an offense that Wabash has, I mean, you're turning the ball over effectively to Mason Zurich, who rushed the ball 37 times for 278 yards and 2 touchdowns. He also had a 55-yard run toward the end of the first half with only seconds remaining, allowing the Wabash Little Giants to put up another 3 points going into halftime after DePauw had already given up 2 costly turnovers that led to points for Wabash. And you really hit the nail on the head. 22 out of 24 times when there is a turnover differential, that the team in the positive tends to win in the Monon Bell game. That's absolutely right.
It was amazing. Just talking to the defensive coordinator, Jay Hood, before the game, he said the goal, limit Wabash's running game to 130 yards. Mason Zurich ran for about 280, 290 yards. That was a school record for Wabash. No player has ever run the ball like that for Wabash before. They ran for, as a team, 350 yards against a DePaul defense that ranked 8th in the entire country in rush defense, only giving up 61 yards per game. If that isn't a testament to the talent level on that Wabash team, I don't know what else is.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. It was not a close game on paper, nor was it a close game in the actual event. Moving on now to the men's soccer team. They took home a huge win against Wash U this past weekend on Sunday. Going into penalty kicks, it was Justin Mitchell who put the match away for the Tigers with the game-winning goal, and then allowing the Tigers to move on to the Sweet 16. Now, the PK shootout went into 8 rounds, and it came down to Kevin Goon of Wash U who missed the final kick, allowing the Tigers to move on. Now they move on to face Loris tomorrow, who, as we both know, DePaul took on Loris earlier this year, beat them 2-0. What do you think of this matchup in the Sweet 16 of the NCAA tournament, Robert?
Oh, it's just so interesting the way that this entire year has come full circle. First of all, this is the first time that the Tigers will appear in the Sweet 16 of the men's soccer Division III NCAA tournament. The fact that they're doing it against an old adversary from earlier in the year who they're able to take down in thrilling fashion back at Revis Field. I mean, it was pretty impressive to see what the Tigers were able to do earlier on in the year. So the fact that they're getting a familiar opponent, it works in their favor in certain aspects, but it's also a disadvantage because from their perspective, they were the underdog. They were the team that found some way to beat Loris. They came out with some type of formation that Loris was not necessarily used to seeing. Now that Loris has seen DePaul, they work from the advantage a little bit more than the DePaul Tigers do when they have, it's weird to say the element of surprise, but I guess the idea of having a completely different type look to go with for the first time, what they had earlier in the year. Now they don't have that same element anymore. The advantage lies with Loris, especially with the fact that this game is going to be played in Iowa as well. All that being said, though, this is a pretty impressive DePaul team led by Julian Gonzalez, who's had such a fantastic season. E.J. Moore as well. There's some dynamite players on this DePaul team that can give some of the best Division III soccer teams some fits.
You're absolutely right. You hit the nail on the head. That was a thrilling 2-1 victory in which Julian Gonzalez made it on the score sheet for his 3rd of the season at the time. And Mitch Revis, let's not forget about him, the rock in midfield for that team, put them up 2-0 at the end of the half. And the Tigers went on to hold that lead for the entire second half earlier in the year against Loris. And it was Revis again against Wash U who put the Tigers up early on with 1:34 into the first half to take the lead in their previous NCAA matchup. Mitch Revis has had a very impressive season this year. His senior season, he has been an absolute rock in the midfield, an absolute destroyer as well. He's a very gifted tackler, and he can take the ball away from the best of them. I expect to see Revis very active on the field tomorrow night for sure.
Oh, without a doubt, especially when you're making these deep runs into the NCAA tournament, you're going to have to rely on a lot of your senior talent and a lot of your veteran players who have been with the team before, know exactly what it's like to have the game on the line. I mean, that's something that a lot of college freshmen coming in, they don't know what the NCAA tournament is like at all. And not necessarily that DePaul has had a long-standing history of appearing in the tournament year in and year out, but they've definitely had a strong history of being a significant piece of the Division III NCAA soccer realm. And so now that they get to have this element where they're in the Sweet 16, a place where they've never been before, it's new ground for everybody, but at the same time to have a lot of your veterans in similar situations to what they've been in before, that's your biggest asset.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And like we said, DePaul will take on Loris tomorrow night in Iowa. Let's move on to women's soccer now. What do you got for us, Sherman?
Well, the women's soccer team just lost to Calvin College in Michigan this past week by a score of 1-0. But this all came after defeating the University of Wisconsin-Oshkosh in similar fashion to the way that the men's team was just able to come up with their last victory against WashU. It came in the form of penalty kicks and resulted in a 1-0 victory for the DePaul Tigers women's soccer team. And they've been such a fun story to follow, because especially right from the get-go, everybody has talked about the men's soccer team and the firepower that they have on their squad. And the women's soccer team, you always say, if they could only score a little bit more. They started to figure out their ability to score. They didn't score often, but they scored enough, and they scored when they needed to put them into the NCAA tournament and to advance to the round of 32. A tremendous season for the women's soccer team, and that's just going to build upon their program, especially when you look at a lot of the big assets on this team, being players such as Bridget Brenza, just a sophomore on the team. There's a lot of room to grow for this squad.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, I remember talking about during our fall preview segment for women's soccer, goal scoring was the main issue. They always had the defense both this year and last year. DePaul women's soccer would lose teams by 1, maybe 2 goals and not score any on their end. But they finally figured it out now, and you know, people like Bridget Brenza, like you said, has been a huge piece for that Tiger offense, and she has been able to really put the team on her back, I guess you could say, and carry that offense in a way with her. She has great speed. She plays a lot on the wing, on the outside, putting balls in, beating defenders, and taking shots on herself. She will be the key piece for this team to make an even further run into the postseason. We'll see where it goes from here.
Was not the case for the Tigers, unfortunately, in their last game, losing to Calvin College 1-0. It was Paige Capel for Calvin College who was able to put the final goal into the back of the net to give Calvin College the victory over the DePaul Tigers in the NCAA tournament. An unfortunate loss for the Tigers, but they're looking to regroup for their next season.
Absolutely. That's all we have for you on this segment. Stick around, and we'll be right back.
Cheers. That's perfect. Get it. This looks so janky. The camera.
Welcome back to Tiger Sports Nation on D3 TV. Robert Sherman back with you, and now joined by Grant Walters, breaking down men's and women's basketball for your DePaul Tigers, and also men's and women's swimming. Let's begin with women's basketball, which just came off a 26-point victory over Adrian College. Their first game of the year resulted in a W, and they're able to get the year off to a strong start after falling in the Sweet 16 last year to Calvin College, another Michigan Division III school. But now they get their season started off on the right foot and hopefully trying to rebound and get things back in motion.
Oh, you couldn't be more right, Robert. This team is favored in the NCAC looking through the 2015-2016 field book. Once again, they're really expected to come back strong as they have been year after year after year. And I think only the first win against Adrian is very indicative of what the rest of the season is going to look like moving forward.
Now you look at the starting five for this women's basketball team, very different than the starting five that we saw from a year ago. No longer do you hear the names Lauren Abendroth, Savannah Trees, Hannah Douglas, Emma Ondyke, or even Hannah Lukemeier, who evolved later on in the year a season ago. Now you're going to see the scoring and box scores dominated by a few new names who had supplemental roles last year, but now are starting to take on higher leadership roles. One of them being Emily Buddy, who just came off a 13-point performance against Adrian College, where she also garnered 3 rebounds and 2 assists. She was the leading scorer for the DePaul Tigers in that game. Only 2 other Tigers got into the double digits. Those would be Claire Ryan, 11 points and 5 rebounds, and Abby Keller, 11 points and 11 rebounds.
No, I completely agree with the comment that you made earlier, Robert, that you know, we see not only seniors that have graduated, but a specific number of sophomores that have decided to not come back and return to the Tiger team, potentially because of whatever other conflicts of interest or just a too high of an intensity for a DePaul-related institution and an athletic program. But you are going to see new players stepping up and filling the spots because of the team that Chris Huffman, Coach Huffman, has been establishing and just deepening the roster as far as they have.
Especially deepening roster. One player to mention, Angela Hacker, senior from Cloverdale, Indiana, posting up 9 points in the last contest against Adrian. You're going to be seeing this Tiger team going much more so down the bench, I guess you could say, in order to try and find scoring options further and further and look for as many avenues to score as well. One player who did not get into the game for the first game was Kylie Morris, but also someone who I think that many are expecting to have a strong season for the DePaul Tigers as well.
I think looking forward to, Robert, as we move deeper into the season, we start to sprinkle in NCAC contenders. We will definitely start to notice the deepening of the roster. And I think this early in the season, you know, obviously 1-0 at this time, there's a lot of game-changing, moving around the roster, seeing what players gel better with others. And, you know, I would guarantee that we won't necessarily see the same starters or at least the same players with playing time in the next matchup in the coming weeks.
Now at this point, we've graduated most of the players who were on that 2013 National Championship team. Big names such as Savannah Trees, who departed with graduation, and so many of the other key components. For the most part, you look at everybody who was able to score last year and everybody who was able to shoot. Most of those players have graduated. So now you have to go and find new avenues in which to score from, and it looks as though it's going to come from the majority, the sophomore class, but you're also going to see some upperclassmen leadership from players such as Claire Ryan and Jenna Stoner as well. It's going to be a very interesting team to see exactly how things will transition with this DePaul Tigers squad, but I'm pretty excited myself to see what this team is going to be capable of and exactly how far they're going to be able to go this year.
As am I. And to sort of juxtapose men's and women's basketball, we have men's squad coming out with 13 returning letter winners, including 1 starter that's coming back for the Tiger squad, which really completely is the opposite of what's going on with the women's basketball. They were 20-10 last year in the 2014-2015 season. We're looking at the 23rd season of Coach Fenlon, who's on a 305 to 213 total record, and with players like Lute Lackner, Bradley Fay, Adam Botts, and Mark Johnson coming back in the senior squad, this team is going to be one that is going to be vying very hard for the NCAC title this year.
You mentioned some of those older players such as Luke Lattner, who just came off a 27-point performance with 4 rebounds and 4 assists. But at the same time, with the graduation of so many players from a year ago, now you get to start to sprinkle in new names. One of the big ones being David Vogel, who has really started to create some buzz around that basketball program. In the exhibition game at Indiana State, he scored over 20 points, including a streak where he hit 4 3-pointers in a row. In the first game of the year, 19 points for David Vogel with 5 rebounds. Somebody who didn't even make a single shot last year with the Paw Tigers. Now it looks like he might be one of the main scoring options for the Tigers. Definitely someone in the starting 5. I'm excited to see how he performs.
Absolutely. And Franklin, the first home game that the DePaul men played, 84-79 victory. We had, as we mentioned, Luke Latner, 12.5 points average a game. We see Clint Cunningham, another big man in there, replacing Mark Johnson, who's currently on the injured reserve list. I believe he has a torn MCL or something related to his knee. But as we start to get deeper into the roster, looking at games like Earlham and Rose-Hulman coming down the pipe, especially in the Tampa Bay shootout tournament that happens over Christmas break, be looking to guys like all that have been previously mentioned to really be stepping up and making the big plays.
And even Jack Vandermerkt as well, who came off a 15-point performance with 6 rebounds as well. Very similar to the women's team. I think we're going to see a lot of sophomore names being thrown into the mix for this DePaul Tiger squad, while also working with a lot of the veteran talent, as you mentioned, Mark Johnson, Bradley Fay, Adam Botts, Clint Cunningham. It's going to be a very different team from what I've talked with a lot of the players very close to the program. Last year, it was a lot of get the ball to Tommy Furnitz on the low block and work in a very slow, methodical offense. Now Mason Hankins is a new point guard for the DePaul Tigers, and he's one who loves to push the floor, loves to play very up-tempo. I think that's what we're going to see a lot of this year, a lot of speed on this Tiger team, and they will be a very different-looking squad. Maybe not as solid all around as last year, but definitely with plenty of room to grow into a team equally as competitive, if not more competitive, as a team last year.
Couldn't agree more, Robert. Transitioning into another men's sport, men's swimming, just finished off their last Indianapolis meet, a challenge against a D2 program where they lost actually 95 to 199, which brings their record to 0-3 on the season. Robert, what are things looking like for the men's swim program right now, coming into an 0-3 part early in the season?
Well, the swims program was one of those programs that brought in a lot of talent last year. A lot of freshmen that were able to step up and actually make names for themselves, actually have opportunities to swim for nationals and really compete at a high level. All those guys are coming back, and now they're sophomores with 1 more year underneath their belt. People such as Mitch Davis and Kurt Swider, who had great freshman campaigns, now coming back and looking to improve upon their abilities. You look at what they were able to do in their last meet. The score did not turn out well for the men's swimming team, losing to Indianapolis by a score of 199 to 95. But at the same time, you also had standout performances. Swimmers such as Sam McManus finishing 2nd place in the 100-meter backstroke. Eric Addy took 2nd on the 1-meter board. A lot of individual strong performances from the men's swimming team. And when you're competing against programs such as Indianapolis, you don't necessarily look for a team victory. You look for strong individual efforts that are going to translate into your more consistent conference opponents that you're going to be seeing down the stretch. And DePaul swims in a very tough neck of the woods, I guess you could say, with the Kenyon swim program, best in all of Division III swimming, Denison swimming 2nd in all of Division III swimming. But DePaul's right there, knocking on the door, a very talented program. It'll be interesting to see what they're going to be able to bring to the table this year.
And as you mentioned about the individual performances being so crucial with regards to women's swimming and men's swimming, it's worthy of note to talk about Angela Newland and the DePaul women's swimming program right now. Still coming off, also coming off a loss against Indianapolis, a score of 132 to 152. So a little bit closer of a margin there, but it has to be mentioned about the former NCAC Swimmer of the Week, breaking 3 school records, 2 pool records, and 1 school record in last week's meet, both in the 1,000-yard freestyle and in the 500-yard freestyle. So really about those individual performances standing out and helping propel that team, both from a motivational standpoint and from a point standpoint.
And you and I were joking about this right before the show, but the way that Angela Newland broke these records, these were not your classic swimming records that were broken by 0.2 of a second or 0.3 of a second. She broke, I think it was the 1,000 meter by 10 whole seconds. An unbelievable performance by Angela Newland, which was really impressive to see, and just goes to show where a lot of these swimmers are developing for this women's swimming program, and gives you a lot of hope to see what they're going to be able to do this year and where they will be this season as opposed to last season. they're expecting to turn some heads for sure.
Absolutely. And this weekend at the Paul Winker Invitational in Crawfordsville, we're going to see even more performances coming from swimmers in that regard, and as they continue to move in through the season to really advance their chances into being in contention, as you mentioned, in a very cutthroat conference.
It's going to be interesting to see how this program is going to be able to perform throughout the rest of the year and exactly how far they're going to go into their conference tournaments, who's going to have the opportunity to swim for nationals, who's going to get the opportunities to really progress even more and more so with this program. I'm excited to see how swimming will do this year. Adam Cohen has been a fabulous coach for the men's swim team over these past few years from my neck of the woods in the east side of Cleveland, Ohio, and coming actually from my rival high school, but he's brought a fabulous program here, and it's going to be very interesting to see what they're going to be able to do throughout the rest of the year.
Stay tuned here on Tiger Sports Nation. We're going to be right back with an interview with freshman Kayla Raymonsberger, talking a little bit more about women's swimming. Stay here.
Men's soccer, where they're seeing a little bit more success on an 8-game winning streak.
Got to get the ball to guys that can make plays and then make plays offensively. It sounds textbook, but that's what they have to do. Things about Division III tennis on a national level, but here's the thing that I'm going to tell you. I hope they win the national championship, one, because I like to play athletics, two, because I like seeing it when you're wrong.
Yeah, that doesn't happen often. Something
that happens quite frequently, actually. No, let's talk about this very quickly. What is a Colt fan? The Colt fan began in 1999, where all of a sudden this team became good out of nowhere. Peyton Manning shows up. No, there are Peyton Manning bandwagon fans. Did you go to the RCA Dome before Peyton Manning showed up? No, because there was no one there. From 83 to 95, there were all of 6 people that had Colts season tickets.
Yeah.
People were more concerned about the Indianapolis Ice.
The defense has stayed actually surprisingly strong.
The defense is not strong. They're not that great. This should prove to someone that Reggie Wayne is not a Hall of Famer.
He is.
No.
Hands down.
If he's a Hall of
Famer, Reggie Wayne is not a Hall of Famer, I don't know if we'll still be in contact in 20 years.
He made Kadri Ismail
But I will text you.
Brandon Stokely
on my iPhone 8. I will text you and say, hey, come over for chips and queso and Reggie Wayne's Hall of Fame induction, because I guarantee you he'll be in the Hall of Fame. He's one of the best receivers in the league.
I would never come over to your house for anything. That just is a total fantasy, because Reggie Wayne's never going to be in the Hall of Fame either.
Bring your swimsuit. I'll have a hot tub, jacuzzi, women.
You're not. That's a joke too. See, fantasy, exactly.
Tiger Sports Nation.
Yeah, no, funny.
It's been another great show.
No, it's not.
Stay tuned. Next week, we'll break down more football, more soccer, more everything. We'll see you later, knuckleheads.
Welcome back to Tiger Sports Nation. Welcome back to Tiger Sports Nation. I'm your host, Grant Walters, along with me, freshman Kayla Raymonsberger of the women's swimming team. Thank you so much for joining us, Kayla. It's great to have you here.
Thank you for having me.
Talk a little bit about what's going on with you individually on the swim team. What are your events? What are you excelling in? What could you potentially see yourself improving in early on in the season?
Well, I am a freshman, so a lot of it is just kind of getting into the whole shebang, as I would call it. I swim the 50 free and 100 free, so I'm a sprinter. I'm thinking there's a lot of training that goes into it. A lot of the 2 days, 2 hours at least a day, swimming and lifting and just all of that crazy. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of work, but I really enjoy it, and it's great to get to know the team and all the ladies on the team, because everyone is so supportive.
And where do you come from originally? Where did you go to high school?
I'm from Jacksonville, Florida.
Wow.
I went to Creekside High School. Yeah, the Knights.
Very nice. How has the transition been from a high school swimming program, competitive, no doubt, to a collegiate swimming program like at DePaul?
It's honestly crazy. It's been really, I'm not going to lie, it's been really tough. Coming from a high school swim team, we would only practice once a day, maybe an hour and a half, early morning, 5 a.m. That's another thing. Early morning practice, woo, everyone loves it. That was a joke. No, we do though. Anyway, so the college swimming is twice a day, as I said, 2 hours, a lot of hard work, especially for sprinting. There's a lot of just like going fast and just getting going, and that's really hard to do at early in the morning, at least for me. I mean, some girls can just do it, but I'm not much of a fast swimmer in the morning. I'm an afternoon swimmer when I've had my nap.
That's fair.
Or my 3 naps.
How do you feel the senior or upperclassmen leadership has been for you coming in as a freshman to this program?
Amazing. I could not ask for better leadership. All of even our captains, they always take charge. They've been there, especially like coming from Florida. It's a big different transition. Like. I don't know what this weather is. I've never been in this. I've never seen snow. I've never been in snow. So the whole first month was really hard transition, and they were really there for me. So that was really awesome, and I'm liking it. DePauw's awesome.
What are some individual and team goals that you have going into to the completion of this season?
Individually, I want to focus on getting better and getting faster, and I don't want to say I don't want to set like a time saying like I need to go this time. I mean, obviously everyone has a time that they want to go, but for me, I just really want to improve, and I just want to put like all the effort I can into my swimming. Team-wise, I want our team to win. What else could you ask for? I don't want to lose. I want to win. So that would be a good team goal for everyone. And I want everyone to succeed, like not just me. I want to be a good teammate, and I want to be able to be there for the other girls, and I want to be an asset, not something that's going to bring the team down.
Well, as it is so early in the season, 0-2 really doesn't mean very much going into such a long and strenuous swim season. So, Kayla, we wish you the best of luck as we continue on moving through women's swimming, and I have no doubt that the program will find more success as the year goes on. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Stay tuned on Tiger Sports Station. We're going to be back with your favorite segment, You Buggin'.
Right? Whoop their asses! Go Tigers! Woo!
DePauw believes in you.
Go DePauw!
Kill Wabash!
Beat Wabash! Go Tigers! Bring home the bell!
Let's beat up Wabash!
DePauw believes in you. Go Tigers! Beat Wabash!
Let's go DePauw!
Go Tigers! Bring home the bell!
Woo! Go Tigers! Woo! Bell!
This weekend, show Wabash what's up. Show them that we're not a bunch of cake eaters from the South. Burst off the line like a shotgun. Go Tigers.
Go Tigers!
Beat Wabash. DePauw believes in you.
Go DePauw! Beat Wabash! Woo!
Beat Wabash, take them down.
Let's go Tigers! Let's go! Let's get that W! Beat Wabash! Let's go!
Go DePauw!
Football one year. I don't know how much fun it is. Never played in a big rivalry game though, so I assume that's even more fun. But it'd be a lot more fun if you won than if you lost. So win.
Okay. Want one?
Yeah. Oh, duh.
Stop.
Cheers.
That's perfect.
Get it.
This looks so janky. The camera.
Michael Jennings, and yours truly share with you some things from the sports world that rubbed us the wrong way. This is where we let you know who is bugging and who is not.
So who do you got?
So I'm here to talk to you about, actually,
Prompter's working. Prompter's working.
Prompter's working. Talk to you about things in the sports world that rubbed us the wrong way. This is where we let you know who's out of their ever-loving mind and who's not. Welcome to You're Bugging. According to CBS Sports, the first rule of the Pittsburgh Steelers touchdown club is that you don't flip into the end zone. Steelers quarterback Ben Roethlisberger made this very clear earlier this year, and his receivers are not allowed to flip into the end zone. This memo apparently didn't get to Antonio Brown. Now, if you haven't seen this play, grab your laptop or your smartphone right now and Google Antonio Brown touchdown flip. I will guarantee you will be amazed by this play. If you don't have a screen near you, then I can try my best to sum it up. Antonio Brown runs a simple slant route about 10 yards from the past the line of scrimmage, and Big Ben hits him with a perfect pass right in the middle. Due to the lack of anything that resembles a defense in the entire state of Ohio, Sherman, Jennings, Brown ran right past where the safety should have been with ease. At this point, the guy's going about 100 miles an hour, and the result of the play is clearly going to be a touchdown. Every football fan knows what the drill is here. Brown will cross the line, celebrate in some elaborate manner, and hand the ball to the referee. Wrong. What happens next will go into the highlight reel for the whole 2015 football season. Brown, at full speed have you, takes a 2-foot leap, does a full front flip, and sticks the landing super casually, like he's a gymnast or something. Now, if you know the NFL well enough, you will know that this is right about when the rabble starts and people start getting disgruntled. We have two sides here. The, oh my gosh, that was the most amazing thing ever side. And then we have the, oh my god, what if he hurt himself side. There are arguments to both these points. NFL players are some of the most physically fit and strong people on the planet. Wide receivers specifically take hits every time they touch the ball by huge dudes weighing anywhere from 200 to 300 pounds. They make split-second decisions that determine whether they will score a touchdown or tear a muscle. I think the guy can manage to do a flip without hurting himself, right? I mean, should we not allow NFL players to play catch with their kids because they might roll their ankle? These guys are grown men. On the other side of the coin, let's pretend that Brown did tear his ACL or something doing his little flip move. Then the best play of the season quickly becomes the most embarrassing way to end your career. The best wide receiver on the team let his teammates, coaches, and fans down because of a little unnecessary showboating. It's not a good look, Antonio. Now buckle up. This rant is about to take a turn. Despite where you fall on the spectrum of if this was a good play or a stupid play, it cannot be denied that it was an impressive play. That not only put the Steelers on ESPN for the foreseeable future, but also sealed the deal against the pretty terrible Cleveland Browns, Pittsburgh's most hated enemy. The electricity in Heinz Field at the time was palpable. Sherman, for you, that's a big word. It means that it was so intense you could feel it. The place was crazy. And then, as follows every touchdown, came time for the extra point. Pittsburgh is just swamped with recent bliss from the Browns' awesome touchdown, and Chris Boswell comes out to kick their ever-guaranteed extra point. And he misses. You kidding me, Chris? It's called an extra point. It's bonus. It's extra. The kick bounced right off the right crossbar, and the excitement bounced right out of the stadium. Missing an extra point after a touchdown is probably how it feels to win the lottery and immediately stub your little toe on a coffee table. The Steelers still won, don't get me wrong, so they're not bugging. The Browns are awful, so I'll leave them alone. The people who think Antonio Brown is awesome, you can't be bugging because he is. And the people who think he's foolish, you're not bugging because you're also right. But you, Chris Boswell, you, sir, are bugging.
That was a great rant, and I'll have you know I have nothing to do with the Browns, so whatever. All right. I know the Islanders are probably a tired subject on this show, especially coming from me, but I would like to take some time to praise the organization that is near and dear to my sports fandom. Yes, that's right, praise. This isn't your usual rant. I'm actually being positive here about something that on the surface should make me mad as a fan. Some of you might say, but Jennings, isn't you bugging about telling us, the audience, who is indeed bugging? I would respond to saying, yes, it is, but let me explain. It has been announced this week that Islanders star, shutdown defenseman Travis Hamonic has requested a trade to a Western Canadian team, namely a team such as the Vancouver Canucks, Calgary Flames, Edmonton Oilers, or Winnipeg Jets. Hamonic was drafted by the Islanders in 2008 and has risen to become a fan favorite for his hard work and dedication to a team that he came through the minors with. Let's not forget that early in Hamonic's NHL career, the Islanders were pitiful, yet he continued to grind and make himself, and therefore the team, better. But that's not the point here. The point is this. Hamonic has requested the trade to be geographically closer to his family, who hail from Manitoba. Hamonic's father passed away at a young age and has been working with children who have also experienced the loss of a parent. He has also been on record saying that he wishes he was closer to his family during his NHL career. The young blue liner approached the Islanders front office before the season started and voiced his concerns to general manager Garth Snow. The Islanders have been working to compensate Hamonic, but a deal involving equal players has proven difficult. Despite all of this, Hamonic's teammates, including captain John Tavares, have voiced their support for a teammate who needs a change due to family issues. It would seem that the natural response as a fan would be to chastise Hamonic and resent him for not being committed to the team. Hamonic, his teammates, Coach Jack Capuano, and Snow have all expressed Hamonic's love for the Islanders, as they should. Let's not forget that Hamonic is a person, and if his family requires him to move back closer to where he's from, more power to him. Islanders fans appreciate Hamonic's service, and when he goes, whether it's this year or the off-season, he deserves a proper send-off. As a fan, I think it would be nice to send him off with a Stanley Cup to his name, but hey, I'm a dreamer. So I guess that's the end of this, and no one is bugging. I don't get it. But that's all we have for you on tonight's TSN. Thanks for tuning in. Don't forget to check us out on YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram. And tune in next week, same time, same place on D3 TV. Have a good week, everybody.